Okay. All right. So, hi. I don't need this slide because you've already introduced me, which is wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate the warm welcome from everyone at FIU. Okay, let's see here. So, what does prestigious scholar development mean? Well, prestigious in this sense generally refers to nationally or internationally competitive scholarships. So, the way to think about what I'm here to do is if you ever want to apply for a scholarship and you have to compete against students from other universities around the world or here in the US, then we believe you should receive some additional support to do that. And so I don't work with internal scholarships, internal to FIU. I don't work with statewide awards if you're competing against other Florida students. But if you're competing at the national or international level, I want to give you some additional assistance so that you can be highly successful in your applications. A lot of the scholarships that I work with can be applied towards tuition, but many more of them fund research, they fund education abroad, gap year programs, or graduate study. So um, they're a little unique in that they tend to have very specific funding priorities, and those are dictated by the federal agency or the private foundation that is providing this funding. But the great news is that there are thousands of opportunities. And what I'm here to do is to help you find one that matches you or find a couple that match you and your interests and goals, and then help you be successful in applying for those. And receiving scholarships like these, it's a huge signal for academic success. You put it on your CV, your resume, it's going to attract a lot of attention. But also, these awards come with great alumni networks. So, from a professional development sense, being a Fulbright scholar means you're connected to other Fulbright scholars before you, like FIU's president, Dr. Rosenberg, who was a Fulbright scholar, or President Solis, who initially came to FIU from Costa Rica on a Fulbright. So you're part of a really fantastic cohort of alumni with all of these major scholarship opportunities. And so these are really important professional connections for you going forward. So that's sort of what I'm here to do, is to help FIU make a real impact in terms of prestigious scholars. Now, I'm not sure exactly what your stages are. So I am going to spend just a minute talking about some opportunities that are open to undergraduates, but then I'm going to talk to about some opportunities that are open sort of throughout the educational pipeline. But I want to make you aware of a few awards where the deadline is coming up pretty quickly. Our internal competition deadline for these awards is November 1st, and these scholarships are open to juniors. The Truman is for public service. It will provide $30,000 for graduate school in any field related to public service. And the wonderful thing is that if you want to go to a school in DC, many of them match the Truman Scholarship or agree to cover all of your costs for graduate school in an effort to recruit Truman Scholars to their universities. So if you're here today, I'm guessing you have some interest in public service, not sure how much, but if you want to pursue a career in public service and you're a junior, we need to talk about the Truman Scholarship because that could be a really fantastic opportunity for you. It's internally competitive. We can only send forward 4 nominees from FIU every year. And I'm really excited to put FIU on the map there. We've had 1 Truman Scholar in the past at FIU, but I know there's more to come. The gentleman that I have pictured there is my Truman recipient from UAB this year. And he is your sort of classic, like, he wants to flip seats up and down the ballot for his party. And he's canvassed thousands of doors for political candidates. He runs the campus Democrats group. He's really active and involved in state politics. And so I think he's really ideal for Truman, but there are a lot of people that could be a good fit for Truman. If you want to be an attorney working on human rights, domestic or international public service, you could be a good fit for Truman. Goldwater is funded largely now through the Department of Defense. They provided a large amount of additional funding to bolster Goldwater so that Goldwater can offer more awards than ever before. But it's a $7,500 scholarship for the next generation of research scientists. And as you can imagine, they're interested in funding people that will be sort of in a natural pipeline to later funding through NSF or through DoD in terms of STEM research areas. So that's another great opportunity. And then the Udall Scholarship is one that is in honor of Mo and Stuart Udall, who, if you're not familiar with those public servants, I strongly encourage you to read about their history. Stuart Udall was Secretary of the Interior, and Mo Udall was a longtime representative. And there, in their legacy, there is a scholarship that pays for students who want to protect the environment in any way, shape, form, or fashion. If you're a birder, if you want to work on marine policy, marine conservation, you should consider applying for Udall. You can apply as a sophomore or a junior and receive up to $7,000 in funding, plus a fantastic alumni network. There's also a separate category for Udall that's only open to Native students. And if you are a Native student with membership in any tribe, then I would love to talk with you about how you could apply for Udall regarding Native healthcare or Native public policy. So those are some that are coming up really quickly. So I just want to put those on your radar. There's also a ton of funding through the Department of State. I'm just sort of hitting the highlights here because there are so many cool opportunities out there. But the State Department has a large portfolio of funding available. You might note that they also appear to use the same graphic designer because their logos look really similar. So the Gilman Scholarship is going to fund undergraduate study abroad for students who receive the Pell Grant. And you can study abroad all over the world, wherever you'd like to be, as long as you're studying abroad for 3 weeks or longer. You can receive up to $5,000 for study abroad, or up to $8,000 if you study a critical language, which brings me to the Critical Language Scholarship Program. If you'd like to learn Chinese, Japanese, Hindi, Arabic, Turkish, Russian, any language, most of the languages that are sort of critical to U.S. security, you can apply for the Critical Language Scholarship through the Department of State. And you, in non-COVID times, would be sent to a country, you'd sign a language pledge, you'd only speak in that language. It's real fun if you know nothing when you go into it. So I had a student that won for Korean and knew like basically no Korean when she went in. So she had some awkward moments with her roommate where they couldn't figure out how to communicate with one another. But that's how you learn a language. That's how you really develop the skill set. So CLS is a fantastic opportunity. It's a summer program, fully funded. They pay for all your trip over there and all of your language instruction. And in terms of language gains, I can't think of a program that is more intensive than CLS. You really make a ton of progress. And then the flagship program for the Department of State is the Fulbright Scholarship. Fulbright can fit just about anyone. If you're a US citizen, then Fulbright could be for you. Fulbright will pay for 1 year of research, mentored research under someone in any other country you identify, or it will pay for your graduate degree. So if you want to get a master's, many of the master's programs available in other countries can be done in a year. And so Fulbright offers study grants to fund those, or you can teach English for about 20 hours a week and participate in some sort of host country engagement project around an issue that's important to you or a population that's important to you. So the way to think of Fulbright is that it's not one thing, it's hundreds of different grants that you can apply for depending on where you like to go in the world and what it is that you like to do. But Fulbright is a fantastic program. It has a long history of bipartisan support. And even when many other things get cut, it seems like Fulbright continues to be funded, which is really exciting. Probably because there are so many Fulbright alumni who are in Congress and are decision makers in DC. And with all of the Department of State awards, you do receive non-competitive eligibility for federal employment. So that's a perk of these. Now, those are just the big three that most people think of when they think of Department of State awards. But there are also some really fantastic opportunities like the Charles Ringel Summer Enrichment Program. If you want to go into international affairs, there's a summer experience program to introduce you to the field. The Charles Ringel Graduate Fellowship, we're working on planning a session for you where you could learn about how you can receive funding for your master's degree related to international affairs. Fantastic opportunity. There's the Foreign Affairs IT Fellowship, which is an opportunity to combine sort of interest in computer science and information security, data management with foreign service. And then there's also the Donald Payne Fellowship, which is technically run through USAID, but I mention it here because It has sort of a similar profile to Charles Rangel, but just sort of funded slightly differently. But it's focused as students who want to pursue careers in U.S. foreign service related to international development. So there's a lot of opportunities, and I didn't even get to all of them. The State Department has a lot of opportunities for you. Um, these are just two awards that I think more FIU students should be winning, so I'm just going to mention them. One's through the National Science Foundation, Graduate Research Fellowships. Fun fact, most people think these are only open to students in the STEM fields, like I have to be a physics major or math major. If you are a physics or a math major, these are for you: biology, life sciences, neuroscience, but they also fund social sciences, anthropology, psychology. So if you are international relations, so if you're going to pursue graduate study in a STEM field or a social science, you really should consider applying for the NSF GRFP. You can see that the financial award is quite substantial. It's $34,000 for a 3-year stipend, plus another $12,000 for your cost of education allowance. Universities love when students come in with funding to their graduate program, and this is a great way to do that and give you a little bit more autonomy over your research focus in graduate school as well. There's also an award just like GRFP, but funded through the Department of Defense, called the National Defense Science and Engineering Grant. And the financial package is actually just slightly better with that one. Your research just has to focus on something that is related to the DoD's broad agency announcements, which are their sort of funding priorities. And then the other award that I think we should be winning a lot of, but we're not yet, but we will, is the Ford Foundation Fellowships. So these support graduate study at the pre-doctoral level, so as your first 3 years of graduate school, at your dissertation stage, or at the postdoc level. And their express purpose is to diversify the nation's faculty. And so if you want to be a faculty member and you are from any sort of underrepresented or marginalized population, including you're a political asylee, you're a DACA student, anything along those lines, you could apply for Ford Fellowship funding. It's a large financial scholarship, but it's also a really wonderful professional network as well. And I know that FIU students are a great fit for that award. And then there are the big ones, the ones you may have heard of. We're going to win these too. At UAB, I was really fortunate to mentor a Rhodes Scholar and a couple of finalists, and a Marshall Scholar and a couple more finalists of that. These are the ones that people know of, but I hope what you're seeing is that they're not the only ones, but they are really great. Rhodes will fund graduate study at Oxford. Gates Cambridge will fund it at Cambridge. Marshall will fund graduate study anywhere in the UK. And Mitchell will fund graduate study in Ireland or Northern Ireland, so anywhere on the island. So if you think you would be interested in doing something like that, please come and talk with me. Some of them are open to international students. Some are open to US students only. If you're an international student, Gates Cambridge is a really fantastic thing to think through. Students who are US citizens might want to apply for Marshall or also any of the other awards. So there are a lot of ways that you can make a Rhodes, Gates Cambridge, Marshall, or Mitchell work for you. They are all very internally competitive, and they're also, internationally very competitive. So you would need to reach out, and I'll explain to you our endorsement process from the university to be considered for any of these primary awards. And then last but not least, my contact info. I'm here. You can contact me. We can schedule an appointment to talk about your interest. And, we can Zoom, what have you. And if you'll tell me what you want to do long-term and kind of where you are in your trajectory, 9 times out of 10, we can find multiple opportunities for you. And there are also some databases that other universities have built that you can search for unique private funding opportunities. So please, please, please reach out to me. I am open to you, and I am really excited to work with you on securing some of this funding, because you're doing something really special, which is this FIU and DC program. Very few universities have something like this, and it is super impressive. And when you put that on your CV, that's going to look fantastic for all of these fellowship organizations. And I feel like if you're the type of person that sought out this type of opportunity, then you're also the type of person who's hungry for other opportunities. And so I think ideally I'd be working with all of you at some point in your educational career. I definitely would love to meet all of you. So please do reach out. Eric asked me to keep it like 10